morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ham, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios here in Morristown, New Jersey. My guest today is the founder and chief networking officer of Fireball Network. She brings her signature energy to every space she's in and brings the funny to business, blending comedy with coaching to help her clients develop their networks and promote their unique brands with less stress, more confidence, quicker results, and lots of laughter. She is Deena Baikowitz. Deena, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mike. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you on. I mean, after our initial conversation, I feel like the Spotlighters, which is the audience, what I call the audience, are going to get a good episode. So no pressure, but that first phone call that we had, you and I, it has a lot to live up to.
You're talking to a performer. It's not going to be good. It's going to be great.
I love it. Love it.
If I may, the last sentence we said before we went live was, "Can I fondle my snowball on your TV show?"
Yeah. And that's why I'm very excited for how this is going to go.
Very professional.
Yeah. We're not even a couple minutes in. And here we go, so tell me
comedy to
right.
business.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to get to that. But so you're like, you're from Toronto, right?
No.
You're stuck in Toronto.
I am stuck in Toronto. I am a New Yorker.
Toronto.
I'm a New Yorker. I'm born Canadian, but I identify as a New Yorker. I lived for 20 years in New York. I landed October 1st, 1999 in Times Square, couldn't figure out Broadway from 7th Avenue, had a ton of information interviews and one job interview that when I got there, they said, "We don't have any jobs available." It's like, I confirmed this meeting 3 days ago, but you roll with it, like Fireball, roll with it. They said, "But we have 5 people for you to meet." I said, "Great." I had all these other information interviews and one of them turned into an actual job. And 2 months later, December 1st, 1999, I moved to New York City. But the moment I landed in Times Square, I said, "This is my home. This is where I belong. The tourists walk too slowly. Get moving. But these are my people. This is my energy." And I had to leave. The pandemic has been hard for all of us for many reasons. But for me, as an extrovert and as a single extrovert who's in exile in the middle of a pandemic, borders are closed. Even when the show airs, the situation isn't going to change considerably. This is Operation Get Fireball Back Home. I'm launching it on your show, Mike. I do a lot of podcasts. I'm not exclusive. I'm sorry, but it's true.
It's okay.
But that's why I'm experienced.
Right.
What was the question?
So we were talking about, essentially, I was going to lead into the fact that you're stuck in Canada, and that I knew you were born in Canada. That's why I said from Canada.
Yes, from Canada, from Montreal, which is a really fun, vibrant European style city. And I speak 4.5 languages. Can't talk about sports in any of them.
How do you speak 4.5 language? Like, what's the half?
The half is Hungarian.
Okay.
Right. Like I could just say I speak 4 languages and a little bit of Hungarian, but that would be normal.
Right.
I'm not normal. Why be normal?
That. Yeah,
no.
Right.
And it's funny because it gets people to say, "Oh, why half a language?" I say, "Well, I just speak a little bit of it." "Oh, why Hungarian?" "My grandmother was born in Hungary." I come from 4 generations of tiny, feisty career women. So I associate with Hungary. But you see where I took one line and turned it into a conversation where we get to know, and I'm like, "Where are your people from?" You're in New Jersey.
Right.
Everything does have a purpose. The purpose might be to entertain. It might be to educate. It might be to inspire. It just might be a way to stop having boring conversations. For God's sakes, everyone, please, whatever industry you're in, whatever you do, please stop having boring conversations.
Yeah.
And I can help you. That's why I'm a networking coach.
Right. Which is, and we're going to get into that. We have so much that we're going to get to.
Yeah.
Like
we're going to be here for days.
We're going to be here for days.
I need to hydrate.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I have coffee here and a glass of water, but we're going to have to probably get a refill at some point halfway through, because I'm sure this conversation, like any conversation we have on the show, is not going to be boring. And I'm assuming that people that are listening, knowing that we're 5 minutes in, can basically foresee that this will not be boring. So
I don't do boring.
No.
I'll do a lot of things. Boring is not one of them.
Right.
I've been listening to your shows. They're awesome. You talk about sports. You talk about rock stars. You talk about branding. You talk about New Jersey. There's so much in them. So congrats. I really, I mean, and plus I want the t-shirt. I mean, I think as a woman who has certain assets, not others. Short legs, big. God is fair.
Right.
Not a great structural engineer, but fair.
All right. Yeah. Well, no, I think I told you. I mean, I think the store ships to Canada. So,
It does now.
Right. There you go.
I expect a special delivery, a spotlighter. But I do love the term spotlight. And a lot of the things I tell people is like, you have to step into your spotlight. And it might not be in front of the camera, in front of the microphone like ours. A lot of people are behind the scenes, and that's still your spotlight, whatever it is that you do, whatever you are good at, whatever makes you happy and brings you, satisfaction, intellectual satisfaction, job satisfaction. That's your spotlight. That's your piece of the stage, even if it's backstage, especially if it's backstage, because nobody succeeds alone. We need cast, we need crew, we need production team, we need talent.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So when you moved to New York, I know you have a background in real estate, which fits the overall vibe of the show because we do a lot of real estate stuff. Yes. So was that the industry that you started in when you got to New York, or was it something else?
So interestingly, I had no background in real estate. My background was theater. I did a theater degree. I then went to work for an engineering company, which is a little bit of real estate, but it was marketing and business development. And then I went into healthcare because I wasn't an engineer and there was a limit to how far I could go in a company where I'm not a scientist, I'm not an engineer. And then I went into healthcare and social work. And then from social work, I transitioned in, because I was a medical social worker, I transitioned into pharmaceutical advertising. I was at a job for 3 months. I was miserable. At lunchtime, I would go into my car, and this is 20 years ago, so 21 years ago, with my phone and make phone calls from my car at lunch, just trying to set up interviews in New York. And they were interviews with the Broadway community. And so marketing Broadway shows was my dream, became my dream job. I'd never even thought of it until it happened. And then at some point, I transitioned from that into marketing consulting and working for various companies. And somebody I met at a New York Women in Communications meeting said to me, she said that she worked with real estate clients. And someone had mentioned to me, they said, you should consider commercial real estate. I think you'd really like it. And I said, I don't know anything about commercial real estate. Sounds like fun. I'll try it.
Yeah. Right.
I really didn't think I had any experience. But then when I looked back on working for the engineering firm, had an entire environmental engineering division. So I knew about wastewater and sludge and air quality testing and soil samples. And then one of the hospitals I worked at was going through a major expansion program, a giant capital campaign. And the construction manager's office was right next to my office. And I used to hang out. It was like this little puppy dog stalker, like, teach me construction, blueprints, hard hat. Like I knew nothing, but I found it fascinating because it wasn't my area of expertise, power tools. I don't know, but I wanted to learn. And he did. He explained what the project was about, and swing spaces. When you were dealing with swing spaces in a medical rehab facility while you have full-on patients there is tremendously difficult, much more difficult than an office building. And so I learned a lot. So then when I did decide that, I think, commercial real estate could be interesting, I went to Commercial Real Estate Women Crew Network meeting. And the women there took me under their wing. I mean, they made me feel so welcome. And I remember the first meeting I wore a cherry red suit. And most of the women were in like blue and black pinstripe, big shoulder pads. They were in banking and finance. They're talking about debt and equity and mezz and bridge. I'm like, the only bridge I know is the Brooklyn Bridge. Like, want to buy a bridge? Yeah. I know that story about New York, but right. Bridges, water, islands. I haven't left the city yet. But I really did find it fascinating. And what I especially loved about and I do call it our industry because that was back in March 13th, 2003 was my first crew meeting. I'll never forget it.
Yep.
And so I got hooked on the people and the networking. It's all about networking. And I brought this personality and marketing, creativity, connector vibe to every room. And I was just information interviewing, asking people for advice. They were very generous and helpful. And within about 6 months, people were sending other people to me saying, call Deena, she'll help you. Like I didn't even have a job yet. I was still doing my marketing consulting on the side for more creative companies.
Yeah.
And yet they would say, oh, Deena knows about all the events. Deena knows, the different associations. So she can introduce you, ask her for advice. And so that's how I built my reputation, by truly being of value while I was also asking people for help, and then eventually landed, jobs with different companies, leasing companies, and an architecture firm. And so I really did fall in love with the industry and the people. And also, I did originally think that real estate was about building community and homes and schools. So the social worker background in me. And then I found out it was like air rights and finance and money. I'm like, this isn't exactly what I had in mind. I'll work with it, but we need to make a difference. And that's why I got involved with so many associations as well, because you do have to give back and become part of community to succeed in life and business and to be happy. And I've made most of my closest friends through my work with our industry. My best clients, title insurance, architecture, engineering, real estate attorneys, and on and on.
Right. Yeah. So what I find interesting about that story is at the beginning, you were getting involved and networking in commercial real estate without actually even having a job in commercial real estate, right? Is that what you just said?
No, I was working for a promotional firm and making a transition. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this was right around the time of 9/11.
Right. Yeah. Well, right, I knew that because you said 2003. So it's like right around. Yeah.
But right before 9/11 was when I decided it might be time for a change, something different. And I was working for an established promotional advertising marketing agency. It was great company, great boss. I was opened up the New York market for them. They're based in Canada. But I also knew I wanted to do something more. And so I was looking around and taking all these interviews and going to events and networking and learning as well. And then after 9/11, I said, you know what? This is meaningful. Like rebuilding New York, I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And even though it was hard, it's hard for all of us, I stuck to it. And also because so many people were out of work and things were changing so drastically, as a networker and a connector, I brought a value. I was able to help others, which I always want to do is be of service and help. And that is how I found my way through the industry.
Right. So why do you think that, right out of the gate, almost like you said, within like 6 months of kind of getting involved with some of these organizations, people started sending people to you to get them, like you knew where all the events were, like obviously you had a knack, I guess, for lack of a better word, for networking. So why, what were those qualities that you think you brought to the table that, made people send people to you to help them network better?
Yeah. And knack is actually a great word.
Yeah.
Because it's always been a natural talent of mine. It's been one of my superpowers. I don't think I always knew it, because as a kid, I was actually really shy. I was insecure. I was teased, and I didn't like people noticing me and talking about me. Now, fast forward, moved to New York, tall, leggy blondes and little black dresses everywhere. And here's this tiny little curly redheaded fireball. I'm going to get noticed. I'm going to stand out, and standing out is an asset in business. And also I learned to embrace, like, we're all different. We all have something that we're not confident about, that we're insecure about, but turn it into an asset. Like, embrace it. It is what it is. We're all different. That's what we have in common, is that we're all different. So the knack, though, was partly just connecting people, like genuinely interested and curious. And I am a connector. Like my creativity is my number one superpower. I see connections between everything. So if somebody one day tells me they're involved with XYZ, and I talk to someone 2 weeks later who says they're involved with XYZ plus, I'll say, oh, then you should really connect with this person. I remember it was one of the law firms I was working for until the pandemic, and I found out that two of the partners were both dealing with matters that involved Venezuela. And neither one of them knew that the other one was dealing with Venezuelan government and Venezuelan business entities. And I said, your marketing consultant should never be the first person to find out that you're both working on matters with a foreign country. Like, you need a better system here. But thank God I did, because it's like, we're having a meeting. And so for real estate and for that natural talent of connecting people, it came from just genuinely wanting to do it, just understanding that that was a strength of mine. And because I would just naturally give people advice about networking and connecting, people would ask me for advice. And ultimately, that's how I became a networking coach. Someone said, you're good at marketing consultant, but you should really teach people how to network for a living.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Right.
And then I also learned by asking other people, like the question, where do you think I fit in? Where do you see my talents helping others? Where do you see a future for me in whatever XYZ industry it is? I listened to a lot of people. I didn't just say, oh, I can do this or I can do that or I'm great at this. I went and saying, these are my strengths, and also back it up with things from your past. Everything I've done in every different career I've had, there's constant themes. I'm an organizer. I produced my own conference, my first conference in my 20s when I was in healthcare, because I was teaching aerobics and teaching fitness classes to seniors, as well as working as a social worker in various healthcare institutions and nursing homes. And I wanted to learn more about teaching fitness to seniors, like specializing. And I said, okay, well, I'll go to a conference. There were no conferences. I said, well, I'll plan a conference. And I found, phoned all the experts, looked them up in the yellow pages back then.
Yeah.
I know I'm a lot. I look younger than I am. But you know what? Like, it's
I remember yellow pages. We used to get them delivered to our doorstep when I was a kid. So I mean, I get it.
I sat on them when I learned to drive. No, really. Yeah. I sat on 2 yellow pages, or a white one and a yellow one, learning to drive in this ginormous station wagon. I still can't see over the steering wheel, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, you don't have to. It's all about feel. You've been doing it for so long. Yeah.
Self-driving cars, right? Not so much. Like, there's certain things that expression suits, and we won't go into it right now. It's not just like riding a bike, driving a car. You actually need to see the road.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
And reach the pedals.
Right. Also true.
But where were we? Oh, so knowing your talents. No, really though, for everybody who's listening and watching, and hopefully they're still listening and watching. They're like, where is this going? We don't know, but it's interesting. We might as well follow along.
Right.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
I am not on a journey. I am a fireball. I am on a trajectory.
Yeah. Right. So also at some point in this, like you mentioned all the stuff that you've done and all the careers that you've had, and you basically told us, like, I feel like 10 already out of the gate here, So also you were a stand-up comedian at some point in this lifespan. Still am, still are. But when did that start? Like, I know you said you have a background in theater, but like, why stand-up comedy? Tell me about that.
So as you can see, my mind, I'm like all over the place, but I can always bring it back. And for those of you who can't follow the interesting twists and turns inside my brain, the chronology is theater degree, liberal arts education, then engineering company, then social work, where I also created training programs. So not just the conference, but training programs for healthcare workers, and blew it up into not just one lecture, but a story and a lesson, and like expand. If it was a business, I would have made a lot of money, but I was doing it as a volunteer for the Alzheimer's Institute. And so then advertising, New York City, Broadway, then real estate, and really enjoying real estate, then launched Fireball Network. All my clients at first, 99% of my clients were all in commercial real estate one way or another. It's expanded beyond that over the years. And then a couple of years ago, actually coming up on my anniversary, so June 4th, 2018, I went to a singles party. I've done that before. It wasn't the only time I've ever been to a singles party. I've been to many, but this one was memorable because as I was leaving, it was at the Delancey on the Lower East Side. And the way the stage is, when you come down the stairs, you have to walk in front of the stage, which anyone who's ever been to a comedy show knows. You do not want to walk in front of the stage while a comic is performing, because he's going to say something to you. And this comic said something to me. It was, either about my height or the fact that I had a man on each arm or I was smiling or whatever it was. He said something and I looked at him and I was like, I'll play. And I said something back. We started talking. The men disappeared. In the meantime, there's a stage and a microphone and a spotlight. I was like, what's going on here? He goes, you want to perform? Didn't know that I had a theater background at all. I said, well, let me, I took the microphone, I held it, I looked around, I said, yeah, this feels totally natural. It was the exact same feeling I had the day I landed in New York. This is right. Every aspect, everything in my body, in my mind, and my emotions were like, this feels good. And a week later, I did my first open mic. And then I did more open mics and I took classes and I took courses and I had coaches and just got involved with the comedy scene.
Yeah.
And it was for fun. It was another creative outlet. I've been dancing and performing and taking improv classes and acting classes all these years, but doing stand-up was brand new. And so I also had expanded my network. I now have a network of hundreds, if not thousands of comics all over the world. And in fact, produced the beginning of the pandemic last May, co-produced a fundraiser for 3 COVID-related charities in New York City. It was one of the very first online Zoom comedy fundraisers because we'd never done online Zoom comedy fundraisers before COVID. Right. And I'm proud of that because another outlet right for my talents. I'm the one who says, hey kids, let's get together in the backyard and put on a show. Or hey comedy community, let's get together on Zoom, raise some money and give comics a platform to perform. And we had a technical producer. Nobody really knew how to use Zoom that well at that time. Yeah. But we had a team. We had a co-producer, co-director, creative director. We had our VIP audience. It was a blast. And that is one of my themes is I will always bring people together for some kind of common cause, whether it's entertainment or in NYU. I started the program, the Masters of Science in Real Estate at NYU. I got halfway through it and realized this is all finance and numbers. But meantime, I launched the Women's Real Estate Network there, got kicked out of the network I launched there. Yeah, anyone who's ever launched a business and been kicked out knows that is harsh. Yeah. And it's not fun and it sucks. It's funny now. I know why. I didn't do anything wrong, but the people who I had brought on as the co-presidents, because I don't believe in leading alone. I always believe in sharing responsibility and glory and spotlight. Just decided they wanted to do it their way, even though I was the one who launched it. I wrote the mission statement, and the guys loved it. They're like, can we join? I said, we'd love to have you, please do. Because the industry is generally 20% women, more or less.
Right. So, yeah. So there you go. There's a stand-up comedy career. So as we're kind of maneuvering through this story, I think it was 12, 13 years ago, right, that you started the Fireball Network?
Yes, it was. Well, so also I find that the worst times in my life and in the world are, change happens through not trial and error. What's the word I'm looking for? Crisis. Crisis breeds change and transformation. So 9/11 was when I decided to get into commercial real estate. And then 2008, when we all lost our jobs and got laid off and I was working for an architecture firm, an international architecture firm, and my clients were real estate developers and hotel developers. No one was developing anything. No one had a job. And so in 2009, just a few months later, I held my first workshop. I met a group of women at an organization at the time called Women at Work, which was a misnomer because it was a bunch of women not at work.
Women trying to work, yeah.
15 people unemployed. And I remember one woman said to me, she's like, why do I want to go to an event where it's 15 other women who don't have jobs? I was like, okay, take it down a notch. Yes, we are all in the same boat and we all have to help each other. And I guarantee you, I promise you, come with me. And she wasn't being about it. She just really didn't see the point and didn't know because she hadn't networked before. And like all of us, we were all stressed and scared. I said, I promise I will help you. I will introduce you. I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but something good will happen. Yeah. And she made incredible relationships. And I launched Fireball Network with a co-founder. And I'm pretty sure that after that initial workshop, my first clients were all in commercial real estate. And then the comedy became just a fun creative outlet. But because I've always been funny and always been creative, in the past year, because of the pandemic, I decided to incorporate comedy officially into my brand and into my business.
Right.
So that I don't have to hide who I am or try to be this buttoned up, stuck up, ultra conservative. I'll never be ultra conservative. I wouldn't want to be. I'm serious. I mean, coaching, clients is a responsibility, but we all want to have fun. So why should I hide a certain aspect of myself or just relegate it to, well, that's just after hours?
Yeah.
If the pandemic's taught us anything, it's that the blur between personal and professional, there are so few boundaries, and it's a good thing because we really do get to know each other in ways that we wouldn't otherwise. And to the point is, that's how you make not boring conversation.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So Fireball, I mean, obviously people that listen to you talk and, I'm seeing you on camera and the people that are watching can see you on camera. So they kind of get maybe like why that could be your nickname. But like, was there a moment where it was like, oh, that Deena, she's a fireball, something like that? Or was it just kind of like, hey, I'm a fireball? What was the...
No, I didn't name myself.
Yeah.
It was my boss actually at the medical rehab facility I was working at in Montreal at the time. I was the director of programming for patients and families. She gave me a job recommendation for another consulting job. And I walked into the guy's office. He goes, I got the most unusual referral ever. He goes, let me read this to you. And the email said, she's a little fireball of energy, hire her. And I think I should start using that as my tagline, in fact.
Hire
like
her.
Now, I got the consulting gig.
Right.
And it was never part of my brand in Montreal. Like I was Deena. People knew me. I was fun. I cared about bringing people together. I was always organizing surprise parties and birthday parties. And a lot of my friends were accountants, so they needed me to like get them together. But it was only when I launched Fireball Network that I thought, what do I want to name it? And I didn't want my name in it. I didn't want Deena Baikowitz Associates. That's just conservative and boring.
That sounds boring, yeah.
And I thought, Fireball. And then the network was, well, it's about networking. It's about community. It's about, so like you have your spotlighters are your fans.
Right.
Lady Gaga has her little monsters. Mm-hmm. My fireballs, you are a fireball. My friends, my clients, I have a network of fireballs. And it turned out this is a really great brand because there's so much you can do with it. And as a creative, I just, go off on tangents. I do have a hashtag, the Fireball Effect. And the EFFECT stands for a lot of different words.
I thought you were
Start with EFFECT. No, it's a secret. That's a great branding. What's your brand? I can't tell you.
Can't tell you. Yeah, right.
Best branding is totally quiet and off the radar.
Right. Yeah, you never hear about it ever. Yeah.
No, what happens at Fireball stays at Fireball.
So the only way to know is to actually join the network. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Right. Join. Come to the Fireball side. Come on. So yeah, like I said, I have fun with it. It's like, hot programs, cool resources, warm introductions. Which is true. Like it is about, bringing the heat, bringing the funk, bringing the noise. I'll go off on Broadway tangents anytime, but also do have analogies with commercial real estate because, we talk about networking and marketing and branding. We joke about it, but it's difficult. People struggle with it. And, what's the difference between networking, marketing, branding? What's the overlap? What's the definition? And so I have an analogy I like to use, or metaphor, or that architecture, engineering, and construction, they all work together. None of them can operate in a vacuum. I mean, you can make a gorgeous design, but if it doesn't get built, if there's no construction or engineering, it's just a beautiful design. Yep. And you can be a great engineer, but unless you have something to actually engineer, your skills are just in your head. So the intersection of networking, marketing, and branding come together, and that's how you build the building. That's how you build your career and your business. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, no, I think it is. So tell me, what are some things that the Fireball Network offers? Because I know that, there's coaching involved, but like, what does the coaching involve? Do you actually put on your own Fireball Network events? And then so we'll get into more detail as we kind of progress.
Okay. It's funny because a lot of the programs I'm on, I love talking, obviously, and having conversations. And I don't just want to talk about myself, although people are interested. I also have no one else to talk to right now because I'm in exile. Operation Bring Deena Back to New York
Right.
City.
Hashtag bring back Deena.
Yeah, bring back Deena. Thank you. That would be really nice. BBD? Bring Deena back? Bring back Deena. Okay, we'll figure out an acronym. It's all acronyms all the
acronyms.
time.
But don't tell us what the acronym actually is. Just
I can't remember.
Yeah, it is an acronym. Yeah.
Yeah, I have another one with Fireball. I can't remember either.
Perfect.
I make them up all the time. I was talking to a woman the other day from Clubhouse, and she's also figuring out her brand. She has a podcast and a really interesting life story. And she had different names, and different people were saying, use your name, don't use your name, use a different name, use a variation of your name. And I just wrote, okay, first name, last name. And I played with it for like a few minutes, and I said, does this work for you? And I took every letter of her first and last name. She said, that's perfect. I was like, there you go.
Yep.
The fireball effect.
Right. And then it's probably lost because we probably forgot it, so.
Oh, no. I wrote it. I took notes. Yeah.
Okay,
and
good.
She wrote it down, and I could probably come up with it more or less again, but it was from her story. It wasn't my acronym.
Right, right.
So, to your point though, what do I do? What does Fireball Network do?
Yeah.
So that branding, that looking at people and what is their story? Like you do this with your guests. I love this though as a creative. So I've done it with Fireball. I can blow out the whole Fireball, hot, cold, all of that fun stuff. Energy. It is truly who I am. I embrace it on my worst days when I am a complete and utter hot mess. I have to channel the Fireball sometimes because sometimes it's just Deena sobbing in the corner. I want to go home. And it's like nobody really wants to see that on camera.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't sell. I don't think so. No.
Well, it does to a certain extent in that, like, let's be real. And last week, a client said, yeah, and I am honest about it. And someone said to me, she goes, you look like you're having such a great time in Toronto, and I see you dancing with your nieces, and it's like, that video is from 2 years ago. I haven't seen a family member in 8 months.
Yeah.
I see nobody. I am depressed. This is the face of a Fireball depressed. Love this. She's like, oh, you fake it. Well, I said, I'm not faking it though, because when I am on a Zoom call, when I'm talking to someone, when I'm at an event, I am truly happy and in my zone. I don't need to force it. Thank goodness. I really don't. That is my energy and my inspiration. And I remember at the beginning of pandemic when everyone said, well, how do we network? What do? We can't, it's online. Or we can't take people out to lunch. Well, you need to have a live audience for comedy. I said, yeah, it's the way it's always been done and it's preferable, but we will learn to embrace this. And if you are stuck at home, you learn to get your energy however you can. And as an extrovert, I'm getting it through Zoom. Get it any way you can. I don't have a choice.
Right.
So it is partly that resilience and that innovation and like just make it work, whatever it is, make it work. But there's still, all the in-between moments because I'm thrilled to see New York coming back to life. Broadway's coming back. My dance classes, I call them my dance classes, like mine and every other dancer in the city.
Yeah, right.
But it's my community. It's I feel at home at Steps on Broadway, for example, and at the open mics. And so there's no place like New York. It is so special. And everyone has a story. And so to get back to your point of what is somebody's story? Right? Like your story. You're the coolest guy in title insurance.
That's right.
How did you get that? Did you name yourself that or did somebody else?
Somebody else. I was a guest on another podcast and we were just talking about like a lot of different kinds of stuff. And he was asking me about title insurance, which, as someone that's been around the real estate industry, I think it's not the sexiest subject in real estate, but yeah, right. So I try to make it as fun and as interesting as I possibly can, just giving my own personality and adding my own kind of spin onto the whole thing. And he was like, I've met a few people in title insurance, but you must be like the coolest guy in title insurance. And I was like, I'm going to take that, I'm going to use that from now on. So, but yeah, so that's kind of how the coolest guy in title insurance came about. And then, what would the coolest guy in title insurance be without my little setup here, the way that I run the show, the guests that I have on the show, all that kind of stuff. So we try to make it as fun and as engaging as we possibly can. So.
And you are cool. You are fun. You're very accessible and approachable and warm. And yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends and clients in title insurance, but it's kind of like law where you have everyone is doing the same on paper. You all do the exact same thing, right? Lawyers went to law school. They know how to practice. They know how to write contracts. They know how to negotiate. For title insurance, you're all selling more or less the same thing. So what differentiates you? And yeah, the parties that your company hosts and the swag. I mean, I still have umbrellas and notebooks and pens and whatever.
Right.
But that's not it. People do business with people they like and trust and know, and and who they remember. It's not, you know what I've realized? It's not just people they like and trust. It's people they remember.
Yeah.
Because when someone calls me, somebody emailed me recently. I haven't seen her in years. We were at NYU together, and she goes, "I need some Fireball in my life. I need your help." And she hired me, to help her with her personal brand and her business as a speaker and as a consultant. So it's being remembered because she and I have not spoken in years, but being on social media, on LinkedIn, and not just being on it, but speaking and communicating, right?
Yeah.
Like you have your podcast, you have your video, the YouTube channel, you have on Clubhouse, all these rooms. We see each other now almost every day on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
So it helps people understand who you are, what you talk about, what your background is, what kind of personality you are. I mean, I'm actually surprised that you and I never connected in New York at any of the many, many networking events.
Right. Yeah, me too, honestly. I mean, I didn't do a ton of stuff in New York City, but a decent amount, so like every now and then, like every couple months I was in there and, take the train in and, have a couple drinks and then take the train back.
So maybe that's why we didn't. Yeah, I would go. Yeah. I was going to tons of networking events every week. I mean, holiday party season was my favorite.
Yeah, holiday season party or sorry, I just choked on nothing. But yeah, holiday party season is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, like maybe if we are able to execute this, bring Deena back hashtag. We'll put it on a shirt, we'll put it on a shirt. We'll sell shirts to everybody. Bring Deena back.
Oh God.
But
I love you. I know we've established I'm too old for you, but I love you. I just want you to know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then we can, actually do some of these events, and do that. But one of the things that you were talking about with, like how you have people, let's just take title insurance people that do essentially the same thing on paper. One of the things, and like I host a lot of my own events here in New Jersey. So I run a young professionals networking group.
YREP.
Yeah. Well, I do YREP. And then I do I just started when I first started with Fidelity, started these young professional just networking groups. They weren't necessarily real estate focused. They were just, hey, you're a young professional. I started this little group on LinkedIn, and then we would meet every, month or so for a happy hour in Morristown. And, you come, you pay for your own drinks, you chat with whoever's there, and then you go home. And so those worked out really well. Then started running real estate focused networking groups or events with a friend of mine who works for an environmental services company. So we would trick those out, like we would, get a room at a bar here in Morristown. We would run an open bar for a couple hours. We'd have March Madness games on TV if it was March Madness. We did a holiday party a couple years ago. I already have the room reserved at the bar that I want to have this year's holiday party at. So I just assumed I booked it in January because I assumed that
what's the date? I'm writing the date down.
The Thursday before Thanksgiving, whatever that is. I forget off the top of my head because it's, a ways away, but already booked it. Yeah. So if we bring Deena back, we'll see you at the Horseshoe Tavern.
When, not if, when.
Right. Yeah. When. Yeah, exactly. If and when. Yeah.
No, not if.
No if.
When.
No.
When.
Right.
Name it, claim it, set your focus,
Put it
intention,
into the universe.
manifest. Oh no, it's not like this is one of the things that I'm not keeping secret.
Yeah. Right.
We can don't talk about branding. It's the branding. The first rule of branding is no one talks. No, this is not a secret. Bring Deena back.
Right. So
I've got my whole Facebook page. People are like, what can we do to help? Like, but I posted on LinkedIn even on Saturday or Sunday. I said, if you see, mindset is not my obstacle. It's not a lack of confidence that's stopping me. I was like, there's actually practical and logistical and legal consideration. So if anyone is interested in finding out more or helping me, call me. And really, tell you what's going on.
Yeah, she needs it. She needs help. Yeah.
Yeah, we all need help, right?
Right. Yeah.
I love the fact that you help others by creating, like, you're also an organizer and you bring people together both on your podcast and with the events that you've created.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try. You gotta, I think that's where I was going with this next question was, we talk about people that sell title insurance, and on paper, we all do the same kind of things. But now all of a sudden I'm bringing XYZ to the table, all these value add type things. And I think that one of the things that you see when you're doing networking events or you're around people that, everybody sees the person just like, hi, I'm Mike. Here's my business card. Hi, I'm Mike. Here's my Those are the worst. So like, talk to me about the importance of like, maybe what is it more what you can do for other people, what other people can do for you? Like, so what is like the mindset when you walk into a networking event, whether it's virtual or in person? What is one thing that you're hoping to accomplish at that event?
I love these questions. I'd forgotten there were questions because we're having such a flow conversation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't even think I've really asked many. I think I've asked like 2 questions like this whole time.
You haven't really had a chance.
Finally one.
You haven't had a chance to get a word in edgewise, to be honest.
Yeah. It's just been fun being on your show, Deena. Yeah. So talk to me about the events. Like what's the goal? What's the goal?
Okay. The goal is for me to have my own show to bring me back to New York.
Right.
Sorry, I thought we were done talking about you. Once you said it's nice to be on your show, I'm like, I'll run with it. Seize the moment.
Right. Yeah. The Morning Spotlight hosted by Deena Baikowitz.
Featuring our guest today,
Mike Ham. Claims to be the coolest guy in title insurance.
But you're on my show.
Yes.
Coolest fireball in title insurance.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God. I really do love you. Okay, I remember the question, mindset.
Awesome.
Setting yourself apart.
Yeah.
And it's true. So it's another one of my favorite analogies. Networking is like dating. I should let you finish drinking your water before I continue with this.
Yeah.
And I've used this analogy for a long time, right? To walk into an event and shove your business card in someone's face or in their hand and be like, I want to work with you. It's like walking up to someone and say, hi, I want to marry you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, move in with me. I don't know you. I'm a really great person. Let's hook up. That happens too, but that's a different.
Right. That's different. That's outside the.
Yeah. So the analogies need a little tweaking here and there, but you get the point.
Yeah.
That it really, and I do say, you're not going to go on a first date expecting to get a marriage proposal. You don't go to a networking event or a one-on-one meeting expecting to close a deal, right? We all say, oh, it's long-term. People need to get to know you. Yes. But how do they get to know you? And how do you show up? First impressions matter. I take a slightly controversial approach that it is not the first impression that makes the most difference. Because a first impression can be mild, it can be bland, you might not be memorable. It's the ongoing impressions. It's the second and the third and the fourth. And I think that's where people get hung up on needing the perfect icebreaker. What's the first thing I have to say? How do I wow them in 3 minutes?
Elevator pitches. Give me a break.
Or some people say, don't start by asking someone what they do. I also think you should ask you're at a networking event. It's not only appropriate, it's recommended. That's why we're here. So, and I realize it's a bit of a conflict between you're here to do business and you're here to get to know each other.
Yeah.
On a human level. So there's nothing wrong with saying, yes, I'm in title insurance. Don't run screaming from the room. Let me tell you about this charity I started, or let me tell you about my networking events that you might find helpful, because it's people from all different industries. Like, I love the fact that your groups are young professionals, because people should not just network with the people in their own sector. That's limiting. One of the reasons I have this incredible network of mine is because I've been in healthcare and marketing and theater and real estate and the hospitality industry and the speaking industry. So I get to meet people from so many different perspectives and sectors and personality types, and I love it. So walking in with the mindset of, I want to get to know people, I want them to get to know me. First impression matters, I believe, only insofar as you're not absolutely turning them off by throwing that business card in that sales pitch. Like if I throw a sales pitch at you, you're not going to want to work with me. But if I just have a fun conversation, it's like that little bit of chemistry. It's enough of a spark, fireball, right? You spark that conversation to say, hey, could we talk again? how about we set up a meeting, a one-on-one, so I can get to know your business? And how can I help you? And I'd like to tell you, who I'm targeting as clients and how you can help me. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we're here. If we weren't networking, we'd be hanging out with friends, and you wouldn't be asking me specific questions about networking. We'd be, I don't know. We might be anyhow, because it's interesting. But building relationships with human beings and dating and building relationships at networking events, the principles are the same. And unfortunately, the social worker in me understands this. So, and that's why coaching was such a natural fit for me, because social work is about connecting people with resources. Being in sales, you're connecting people with resources. You're connecting people with each other. Find out, what does somebody need and how can you help them get that? As a networker, as a coach, as a title insurance guy, like you're helping connect the different people in the deals, right? The lawyers and the accountants and the construction companies and all of that. So your brand really is unique, and it's just who you are.
Right. Yeah.
Which is good.
No, 100%.
I think for other people, you shouldn't have to force it, but you do have to find it. And yes, working with a coach can help. Absolutely. I've done that with a lot of my clients. And certainly ask your friends, ask the people who know you best. How do you stand out? What is it that they see as your superpowers and your talents? Like, you may not have realized that organizing networking events and bringing people together is a superpower for you. I said it. You're like, oh yeah, you're right. To me, it was just obvious the minute you said it.
Right.
Because we don't see ourselves that way. It's so easy for us and it's so natural. But I'll give you an example. I went to a networking event, one of the many, many, many events I went to, and walk up to a gentleman. Hi, hello. I asked him what he did. I don't remember what he said anymore. And he goes, what do you do? I said, I'm a networking coach. He goes, I don't need a networking coach. With that tone of voice, I don't need a networking coach. My first reaction inside my head was, clearly you do.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Clearly you do. But I was like, good on ya.
Yeah.
Best of luck, buddy.
Right.
Like I didn't say, I'm a networking coach and here's why you need to hire me and here's my business card. I asked you what you do. You asked me what I do. So there's a little bit of that. Is, let's not assume that everyone's trying to sell. At the same time, we are there to do business, but not in the very first minute that we meet.
Yeah.
And people need to have patience. They do need to know that it takes more than one connection. Let me see you outside of work. Yeah, let me see your puppy or your home or your really cool green screen. Let's show up at more than one event. I've had clients who've said, well, I went to the lunch and I didn't meet anyone interesting. I'm never going back. Well, it takes time. It takes years. It could take weeks. It could take months. It could take years. But to build real relationships, it goes deeper than just, here's my business card.
Right. Yeah, 100%. My favorite, and I get this all the time because I mean, like you said, there's a lot of people that sell title insurance. So I'll go to an event and they'll be like, oh, Mike, what do you do? And I'll be like, I sell title insurance. I'll actually say it. I won't my words. And they'll go, oh, just like that. And then like they have nothing to, follow up with or anything like that. I'm just like, okay, great. People love title insurance people, but that was pre-Morning Spotlight, Mike. This is... I
figured now you can future. Say I have a podcast, Morning Spotlight. And you bring guests and topics of interest so you can say, I'm an educator. Whatever terms you want to use, but you bring people together.
Yep.
You're branding. There was another guy at an event I went to. This is one of my favorite stories. It's more fun when I get to act it out. But it's like when you said, title insurance, like I actually said the words. Like, can you imagine mime elevator pitches? Like, we're gonna play charades. How much fun would that be? Okay, we're gonna launch a new form of networking post-pandemic. Elevator pitches and charades. So if you can guess what it is by and I'm like. So I don't know what, but like talk, shake hands, make eye contact,
no, that's
skipping
good.
down this hallway together, having fun.
Right.
Like, oh my God, wouldn't that be fun? Mime elevator pitches.
I would have to think of mine. I mean, maybe, like for title insurance, I don't know.
Oh, it's a hard one. Yeah.
Sleeping. Obviously, it's not when you're dealing with me, obviously, but just in general. That's just the vibe that people get, but
it's not as bad as financial advisors. That's more cringe. Title insurance is like, financial advisors like, bye.
Right.
Get away from me. It's like the burning cross or whatever, vampire,
Right. Yeah, because there's like always 20 at like every event. It doesn't matter. There could be 15 people there, but somehow there's 20 financial advisors. It's just like weird how that works. Yeah.
Which is why I work well with financial advisors, because they do need that help in branding. And it's obviously working with an individual and finding out, you get to talk to them. And sometimes the most obvious thing to me, I'll see that spark, that branding statement, they don't realize it or recognize it either, or they haven't thought to use it. Like, well, should I tell people I do this or that?
Yeah.
Then there's lawyers who just like to hang out with other lawyers. So also with my lawyer clients, I get them out of their comfort zone and into rooms with other people. And they're very interesting. I also like to ask people, why did you get into this business, or how did you get into title insurance? What interests you about real estate? Tell me about your favorite clients, your favorite deals. Tell me how you built your network. See, I could have my own show.
Yeah.
But all these kinds of questions are what makes not boring conversation, and not assuming someone's going to sell to you on the spot. If they do, okay, that's a bad first impression.
Yeah.
There's something I do, and because now it's all LinkedIn messages and emails and DMs. There's all the automatic garbage. It's garbage. People stop using auto everything. Like automation, I believe in. Efficiency, I believe in. Like I have my scheduler, right, that we use to set this up. Yep. But the automated replies and the obvious sales pitches. So there's two things I do. I either block that person, so they've made that first impression so bad that I'll never talk to them again. Or if it's an email, I usually write back and say, thank you for your email. Clearly, you need my services much more than I need yours.
Right.
I teach networking. I teach professionals how to conduct business development and market themselves in a way that isn't a cold outreach to an inappropriate, and I'm talking about people whose services I have absolutely no need for, a law firm management software. If you read my bio, I don't manage a law firm. I coach lawyers. I work with law firm management teams.
Yep.
What would I need a law firm management software for?
Right.
So, and I've realized also, because a lot of people now start sending me their worst, and I'm going to start a feature, like the hottest, flaming hot mess. That's what we're going to call it. Flaming hot mess.
Yep.
The worst networking mistakes. And it's not because I'm trying to hurt people or take away their business. I mean, I would never actually hurt someone, but we want to learn from it. Like, don't be that guy or that girl. But also, I think when people complain to me, we're frustrated because it wastes our time. It's just it's more noise. And then if you go a little deeper, and this is the social worker in me, we're like, okay, well, that's not the way to do it. But how do I do it? And do I come across as this? Or am I too pushy? Am I not pushy enough? Like, we are all struggling. We want to be authentic, but we need to sell. But we don't want to be too salesy. But we don't want to be too quiet, because the people who are noisier take over the spotlight. No pun intended.
Yeah.
So I think when those really bad ones come, it's a bit of a trigger reaction. And so when I respond with either, F you, no, I don't need it, but you need me. Or sometimes I'll say, listen, as a woman in business, I truly support other women, but this is not the way to do it. I'd be happy to schedule a consult with you. Free consult. Yes, I'll tell you about my services, because you just pitched me yours without even me asking you. If I walk up to you and say, I'm going to sell you my services right now,
no,
there has to be consent.
Right. That's key.
May I, every step of the way, may I tell you what I do? Or if you ask, will you tell me?
Right. So I got a couple more questions before we get into our closing segment. So one of them would be virtual networking, because to me, the virtual networking thing is never going to go away 100%, because I feel like we've seen it work to a certain degree. I mean, I've met more people over the last year plus through virtual networking that I would have ever met in just a traditional in-person event type year, doing what I do. But at the same time, you miss a little bit of that human connection type thing, because you can't actually, you only see me from my waist up, and then that's it. You don't know, I could be 7 feet tall. You have no idea. I could be.
So could I, but I'm not.
Right. I am also not. Yeah. But so talk to me about what the challenge is, and maybe a tip for virtual networking that people can use, because there are good platforms, at least in my opinion.
Yes.
I've used them before, because I ran virtual networking events all year last year.
You're a networking expert. You really are.
Yeah, well, I try. I mean, trying different things. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I don't know if you want to mention which ones. We can talk about that after, but
Yeah.
I would think those would be some cool guests for us to have on our show.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Our show would really appreciate those people coming on.
But maybe it's a new show.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a co-host. Like I always say, I would rather share the spotlight than be on stage alone.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, like, I've written that before I even came on your show. I've used that in my bio for years, actually, because I'd much rather share
Right.
and have that group of people. But it's true, like learning what the different platforms are and how to use them and the benefits, pros and cons. Like I could see a panel.
Yeah.
Yes, of course they're selling services. Great. I want their services. I want to know that the newest platforms are simulating that networking experience. There's ones where you can have the tables and the chairs and move through.
That's what I use. That's Remo. I use Remo.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's Hopin.
Yeah, I've never seen Hopin before,
Hopin
but let's.
Like, okay.
Yeah. No. Hopin is more like.
From my experience with it, I mean, we should get them to sponsor you before we. Like,
yeah. Well.
No. But honestly, we're sharing resources, and it's great. I want to get to know more about them. The times that I've used them is at a conference where you had speakers, and then you could hop into a private room. So it was like a breakout room, but it was also a bit random. Like you would wait until someone else was free, and then they just pop you into a room with somebody.
Yeah.
And I met some really cool people that way. Kind of like if you're at a networking event, you just see somebody there. Like if I ever see someone standing by themselves, I will always go over to talk to them. I mean, if they're on their phone or they're busy, obviously, but I'll walk up and say hi and kind of, again, see how they react.
Yeah.
You're new here. Can I introduce? I'd love to be happy to introduce you around. Sometimes they'll say, no, I'm good. It's an introvert. Maybe they don't want to meet 50 people. Other times they'll be like, it's not even a question. Like, you're new here. Because I know everyone in this room. I know you're new. Let me take care of you.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful thing. Come join us. Join us or join me. They're all really powerful words. It's about inclusion and including people. So to go to your point, I do remember the question.
Yeah.
Virtual networking. It's another tool. So we all want to see people in person. My God, I want to see people in person. And like, forget handshakes. It's like everyone's like, we're gonna hug now. I'm like, okay, Again, ask for consent. As a woman, though, in most of my women's real estate networks, and I'm involved with Crew and Cornet and New York Building Congress. I mean, you name any New York City real estate related association, I'm either a member, been involved, spoken at, helped run conferences. They're a client of mine. So we are going to want to get back to the in-person, but the hybrid gives us opportunities.
Yeah.
It gives us opportunities that save time and money. They're efficient. You can get 6 people in a room without trying to coordinate all of their schedules. You don't have to deal with the trains or the subways or parking or traffic. But let's embrace both and know what your purpose is, right? So a quick 15-minute call, not that we would ever have a quick 15-minute.
No, it's impossible, I feel like. Yeah. I think our quick 15-minute call when we first had it was an hour. I think that's how long we talked for.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
So no, it totally wasn't. It was great. But that's it, right? Like, no, ask like how much time does somebody have? What is the purpose? Setting an agenda. So for virtual and for in-person, having an agenda, like I have an agenda when I go to a meeting. Here's the points I want to bring out. Here's what I want to learn about the other person. And when you go for coffee, it's usually like, I have 20 minutes, I have half an hour. Same thing with Zoom, or a phone call, good old fashioned phone call. We don't always need to be on camera. And then have a call to action at the end. So are we going to follow up? Like you and I, the call to action was let's book you on the show.
Yeah.
Great. We did that. And then we see each other on Clubhouse in the meantime. So that reinforces it. And I watch your previous episodes. Follow each other on social. So virtual definitely has a place now. It makes it more accessible for a lot of people, especially working parents, not just working mothers, but working dads, or for people who are, stuck on the other side of the 49th parallel. Agree.
Yeah. Bring Deena back.
Bring Deena back. Bring Deena back.
Yeah. It's like a jingle now just to get it stuck in people's heads.
Oh, I could totally choreograph something to it.
Yeah, perfect.
Where were we? So virtual, yes, virtual is here to stay. It's great. Ironically, I mean, what I used to have the hashtag how to work a room. It's a page on my website. It's down right now. It's going to come back up, fireballnetwork.com, how to work a room, because it was all about teaching people, when you get there. Somebody once asked me, the craziest question I've ever heard, of all the questions I've ever gotten, is, do you work the room clockwise or counterclockwise?
I'm a big clockwise guy. Keep it I'm just kidding.
It's never occurred to me.
No idea.
It's never occurred to me. Like that takes way too much. Like, oh my, and what if the people start moving? It's like one of those brain games where you're like, I got that one. That one moved over here. I gotta get that one.
Or like the fish, then they all kind of start swimming in the circle to like avoid predators, like that kind of thing. Ooh, I mean, how are you supposed to keep up?
That's a good analogy for networking events. How do we avoid predators at a networking event?
That should be insurance. No. We're not predators. Some, but all right. So the other question I had, which was actually good that you touched on it in that answer, is like, so a lot of people that listen to this show are between the ages of 25 and 35. That's the majority of my audience. So they're young professionals. They're either new to real estate, they're entrepreneurs. So if you're 25 or even younger, over the last year and a half, you haven't done any in-person networking events, most likely.
Any of us of any age haven't done.
Right. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, maybe you've never done them ever. You know what I mean? Okay. Like if you switch careers, so like you're going to eventually go to an event. I remember my first one. It was a NAIOP, New Jersey event.
Oh, I love that.
Walked in, there was 200 people in the room. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know anyone here. I just started, so I had no clients. I had no people to talk to. Luckily, I saw a kid that I actually grew up with in that same event. So I just kind of latched on to him. He happened to work for a developer. So I actually got to meet a couple people. So it worked out, but not everybody gets that lucky. So this person that could be a spotlighter, could be somebody that watches this down the road, goes into that event in the future, this future event where there are 200 people. They've never interacted that before. What do you do? Because there's always groups of people talking to each other that seem like they know each other. Mm-hmm. There's also like the one-offs, and you could try to get that one person and see how it goes. So like what's the strategy? Is there a strategy, or do you just kind of just walk up to some random person and be like, hey, I'm Deena, I'm Mike, you know, like that kind of stuff?
No, I mean, you and I would totally click, but at a networking event, there is strategy. And in fact, up until pandemic, this is a lot of what I was getting hired to teach individuals, and the workshops I gave were how to work a room and how to follow up and what to do in the moment, and the handshakes and the icebreakers and all of that. And it's coming back, which is great. So there's a couple of different strategies. One is start with mindset, right? Go there knowing your goals. What is your goal for networking? Is it to find clients? Is it to find a job? Is it to get advice? Is it just to like generally meet people and see what happens? So yes, the ultimate goal in mind will help you strategize. But again, we're not going there expecting to close that deal or land that job with the first person we meet. It's just good to know when somebody says, you know, what do you do or why are you here? Which goes next to, okay, have some confidence. Also know that, especially for the age group 25 to 35, less experience with networking. Everyone else there is pretty much in the same boat as you in a good way of any age. You know what? There's always going to be extroverts. There will always be introverts. There will always be people who are new to that room. The first networking event I went to, I didn't know anybody. I had called the president of the association ahead of time saying, I'd like to come. I don't know anyone. And she said, show up, come to the event. I will take care of you. Like, I will make sure I'll introduce you around. Come find me when you get here. So if you can buddy up, you know, the buddy system, find a partner to go with, certainly helps. If you can connect with the organizers, the sponsors, check out these, so like, let's say it's NAIOP, right? And you've never been to a NAIOP event. Look at the New Jersey chapter page. What are the different committees? There's generally a young leaders committee at every organization. I know, because I pitch them all the time, like, let me come do a workshop for you. And I should probably start doing that again now for the virtual. Which, you know, obviously I've been talking about all year, but look up who the committee members are and reach out to them so that you at least, even if you've just had an email exchange, it's like, hey, or you send them a message saying, hey, looking forward to being there. It's my first time, right? It's my first time. What do I need to know?
Right.
But that really helps. So be confident that you're showing up just like everyone else. Everyone has an agenda. They want to meet people, that everyone's going to be a little nervous to a certain extent. That's okay. That first impression isn't all critical. You're not trying to, it's not a Broadway show where you have to show up and be like, here I am. You know, like, bam. It's just, hey, the icebreaker. So this is another thing. People want to know, what's the best icebreaker? You know what the number one most common icebreaker is? Hello.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You stick your hand out. Yeah, it's a classic. I guarantee you. Like, and we will get back to handshake. So if you stick your hand out, the person automatically, reflexively will put their hand out to shake back. Now it might be the elbow bump or, the business card exchange, which is fine. It's contact info or the phone bump. But hi, how are you is a great question. Have a good answer. Not I'm fine. How are you? Good. How are you? Great. Fine. Until like 12 hours later, you're both on the floor asleep, or like I'm fantastic. Or, you know what? I'm having a rough day. Here's what's going on. Or, I was just on this amazing show this morning. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
Really, icebreaker. It's not the icebreaker. I don't remember the first thing. Do you remember the very first thing everybody you met ever said to you?
No.
No, nobody does. I know hundreds and thousands of people. I don't remember the first thing. I might remember the most recent thing. I will remember something memorable.
Yep.
I will remember advice. The very first thing was probably hello.
Right.
That being said, I do have a pretty cool story at my very first, which should help your audience, have a little fun with it, have a sense of humor, pay attention to what's going on around you. So it was my first Cornet conference. I was working for a lease auditing company, so not so sexy either.
Right.
And my boss basically dropped me. It was my first away conference. I've been networking locally in New York, a high level of networking savvy, but I've never had an away game. It's like one of the few sports metaphors I'll use. I call it like road tour,
Yeah, right.
We're doing tryouts in New Haven.
Yeah.
The Broadway community will get that. So and he dropped me off and says, go bring in business. Like, no pressure.
Yeah.
First thing I did, I went to the bar. It was a sports bar. And there were some people that, we had name tags. So I saw New York and New Jersey name tags. I'm like, oh, my people. And I said, can you give me some advice? Like, I've never been to a Cornet conference before. And they're like, oh yeah, go to the opening night party and do this. Like, they gave me tons of advice. I said, thank you. So then I go to this reception at the the Pavilion. I'm thinking Atlantic in Brooklyn. There's this giant Olympic pavilion in Atlanta, 5,000 people there. I didn't know anyone. So I go over to the buffet line because, and here's a trick, when people are standing in line for food or drinks, they are much less likely to run away from you if you walk up to them.
Yeah.
And I'm just standing there, like, trying to figure out who to talk to and feeling insecure. Like, we all have those moments. Like, I'm new here. I don't really know what to do. And I looked at the guy next to me and I said, excuse me. Be polite, right? Excuse me. I'm sure you've heard this before, but you look just like Robert De Niro. And he smiled and he said, hi, I'm Marty. And I said, hi, Marty, I'm Deena. This is my first time at the Cornet conference. What do I need to know? And he told me about the parties and the after parties and the after parties, because they're like cigar and poker. Yep. And he, the rest of the conference, he walked me around saying, you got to meet this woman. You got to hear what she said to me standing in line for the buffet. And it was true. It was he resembles Robert De Niro. So I wrote him an email that night when I got back. This is like before we were all texting, but I got back to my room, cracked open the laptop, sent him an email. Dear Bobby, thank you so much for the advice. Really appreciate it. And then he writes me back an email. Love, Bobby. It was my pleasure.
Yeah.
So building those relationships and having fun with it, and then have a follow-up plan. Absolutely. Follow up. If somebody gives you information, take notes, write it on your phone. Do not be multitasking. Do not be texting while someone's talking to you. Do not have your phone in your hand like this, unless you're saying, let me take those notes.
Yeah.
Focus. Please be present in those conversations.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, for sure. So we've talked about a lot so far, your career, networking tips, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to move the show into our closing segment, which we call Under the Spotlight.
It's over. It's over.
Which is crazy. Done. Yeah, because we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes about.
Wow.
That's what happens. I mean, I stopped looking at the clock and then I look and I'm like, oh my God, we've gone way past where we normally go, which is great because the two of us could probably talk for hours.
You'll come on my show next.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
But you're really good at this. Seriously, Mike, like I was listening to your other episodes. You have a gift for it. You let your guests talk, you get a few questions in, you take it in different directions. I hope, I mean, I'm fairly confident this will be interesting and entertaining. Yeah. I had a lot of points I wanted to talk about. I didn't bring them up at all, but that's okay.
Okay.
People's questions.
Maybe we'll have to do like another, like a follow-up,
like a second date, date.
Right. Ooh. Yeah. Like a part 2, get you back on so we could actually talk about the stuff that you did want to talk about.
Sure. You know? Well, it's more that it's helpful information.
Right.
We could do something. Absolutely. We'll always say yes. Always say yes.
Right. So anyway, we're going to move it into the closing segment, which we call Under the Spotlight. So we talked about a lot. We've covered a lot. We've given a lot of tips. We've given a lot of experiences. We've done all that kind of stuff. So what would be one thing that you want the spotlighters to walk away from this episode with? So you are under the spotlight.
Oof. There's not just one thing. First of all, there's not just one thing. There's many things. Learn from other people. Absorb that information from me, from Mike, from other coaches, from other experts. Don't go it alone. I will actually, the most important thing is something that someone said to me at my very, very first crew event that night. And she said, let me give you some advice. Surround yourself with good people.
Yep.
And I add to that, you never know how the next person you meet might change your life or how you might change theirs. So be open-minded. You're not always going to be confident. We're all human. It's okay. Have those conversations, get to know each other, and amazing things will happen if you keep that open mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And surround yourself with good people and great people.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's been the key to my networking successes, I guess, is just because I have like a really solid core group of people that, like, if we're at an event together, if a friend of mine and we're there together, we can work a room together. We can do different things. We could host events together. We could do everything together. And it just it doubles your efforts. Because if I'm talking to somebody, it'd be like, oh, hey, Deena, come meet this person because I just talked to them for 5 minutes and they don't do anything for me, but maybe they could help you, something like that, or vice versa or whatever. So I think that's a great point.
Partnering up. So ask for help, ask for advice, definitely collaborate with other people. So whether I'm launching a networking group or hosting an event or doing a show, yes, you want more voices. I will say also diversity in our industry is a good thing. More women, more people of color, LGBTQ community. Like, we want that richness and diversity in your network beyond real estate, beyond your own age group, beyond your own regional group.
Yep.
It's more fun. It opens up opportunities. Don't try to go it alone. And don't be embarrassed or ashamed if you don't know something. If you have questions, here's the other thing. People love to give advice. We know that from Clubhouse.
Yes. Everybody and their mother wants to give advice.
Yeah. And share their opinion. You don't have to take it all. Take it all in and then decide what works for you. But keep an open mind and open ears.
Yeah.
And you'll do great. People want to get to know. We all have something of value to offer somebody else.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
It's finding it. That's the fun part. That's the treasure hunt.
Yeah. Your thing to give. And then, what you can get from other people, just obviously, within the scope of the networking thing. So if people have listened to this whole episode and they're like, I need to meet Deena, or I need more Deena, or whatever. What are the links? Hit us with the links. Where can they go to get her?
You mean she's a little fireball of energy. Hire her.
Exactly. Yeah. What are these links?
These links are fireballnetwork.com is the website. On all the social medias, I am at Fireball Deena, Deena, for those who are listening and not seeing. And go to the website. I have Sparks of Inspiration is my mailing list. The Fireball Effect is one of my hashtags. I'm launching, which will be up and launched by the time this airs, the Red Hot Networking Challenge, which I think will be really, really helpful for your demographic. It's a good warm up for networking. And call me, set up a call with me. I would love to talk to any of you, get to know you, and offer some advice. So at Fireball Deena, Deena Baikowitz on LinkedIn, and fireballnetwork.com.
Awesome. And then the other hashtag is Bring Deena Back. So
Bring Deena Back.
Yeah, we got to make sure we get that in one more time before the end. So, all right. So for everybody listening, I will make sure that I put all of those notes or links in the show notes that Deena just said. If for some reason you feel so intimidated that you can't actually reach out to Deena, even though she's a networking coach, and you want to go through me to get to Deena, I'll put my links, just like always, themorningspotlight.com and themorningspotlight@gmail.com in the show notes as well. Deena, thank you so much for coming on with us today. This was, as expected, amazing.
It was a blast,
Yep.
Mike. It was a total blast. Thank you for sharing your spotlight with me.
Of course. Yes. Thank you for coming into my spotlight. So thank you, everybody, the spotlighters, for listening. Made it all the way to the end with us today. We appreciate it, and we will catch you next time.